Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. We got the 2009 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's got the big 3.7. Customer complaint on this one is the tachometer and speedometer drop out while you're driving. And they drop out more like a glitch. They just pop down and pop back up, pop down, pop back up. No, they're not timed. They don't do it at the same time every time. It's just really random when it does it. And it does it quite often. Now I drove it, started up, just went around the block and it did it. And just sitting here at an idle, the tachometer drops out. Quite a few codes in it. Now the customer has gone ahead and has replaced the instrument cluster for other reasons, I guess. Other gauges had quit on the original one or something and he replaced it, and this replacement one still does it. And he went so far as getting another one, and that one still does it. So it's likely not in the cluster. Now I did read the codes out of it, and it has several codes in it. It has engine codes for, catalyst efficiency and some other issues there that don't really pertain to this, and there's codes in other modules that I don't really think pertain to it, but there is a code that I think does pertain to it. And this car has two data networks on it, the CAN C and the CAN B, they call it. And it appears that the CAN B, like Bravo, is not functioning as it should. And I believe that the tachometer and odometer are a bus input to the cluster, and when that data bus is going wonky, per se, that's when this happens. Now, I can show you what it's doing, and I'll show you kind of where I'm at. I haven't gone much further because I wanted to bring you guys along. It may be interesting. I may not be able to find the problem, but we might, and I want to have the camera on if we do, so it can benefit somebody else. So first of all, I'll show you what it does here. He left the spare clusters in there and then brought a fuse box. For some reason, I'm not sure what. We might need it, might not, I'm not sure. Let's just go ahead and start it. And I was gonna say, usually it does it pretty quick. So that's what it does. And it doesn't matter what RPM it's at, it still does that. And when you're driving, the speedometer drops out at the same time. None of the other gauges do. Nothing else in here really seems to go haywire when it's doing it. That's the only thing that you can observe, inside the car. So let's see that. So I'll shut that back off. I'll show you the codes that I've obtained. And we're just gonna do it like this. We're just gonna do some screen pointing because it's a little bit easier. Did a full system scan. This is the CAN C, which has the engine controller, airbag, ABS, transmission, wireless control module. And then over here on the CAN C, we have driver's door module, overhead module, amplifier, passenger door, sunroof, and instrument cluster. So I'm gonna go to the report here, show you what codes are in it. Like I say, engine controller, these are just problems the car has, but not this problem. Trainee has a stored code. I haven't cleared any codes out of it, but this is where I started kind of focusing my efforts, I think. Central gateway, or the front control module, I think they call it. CAN B bus code 019, CAN B minus circuit low 025. Passenger door module has a code set against it. Amplifier, driver's door module, stored code here in the wireless module. Sunroof modules on the CAN B. This electronic overhead modules on the CAN B. And you can see we have codes related to this. Now this lost comm with heated seat control module, that's because I have it unplugged currently. And I'll show you why. Actually, let me show you something else here first. Thinking that we're going to focus our efforts on the CAN B data bus, I went ahead and I printed myself out a diagram of the entire data network on the car. So the CAN C and the CAN B, so it's 2 pages. And then I printed out a simplified version from service data of those 2 data networks. Here's the front control module, or the central gateway. So both data networks run into the central gateway, and then they talk to, or you're able to talk to these networks through this diagnostic C bus, the diagnostic CAN C bus from the data link connector. So with Chryslers, you can't go right to the data link connector and measure, what's going on the data network. So if we come over here to the CAN B bus. Now this is way outside my wheelhouse, folks. Just, I'm not the best at explaining this. But I looked at all the potential modules that this vehicle has, and I've highlighted the ones that it actually has. I got that information, A, from looking at the car, and B, I went into the central gateway and looked at the configuration information to see what it was programmed for. And then I just went through and highlighted each one of these modules it has. So it has 8 modules on this car: the instrument cluster, the amp, that overhead module, passenger and driver door module, sunroof, HSM, I don't remember, radio, heated seat module, sorry, yeah, had to think for a minute. And so I've seen that. I think we have a problem on the CAN B bus, and I've gone ahead and hooked up the Pico. But in order to talk to that bus, because we can't do it at the data link connector, we have to tap into it somewheres. The heated seat module lives under the passenger seat. I suppose I could show you, but you could also believe me. So the heated seat module lives under here. I've simply unplugged it and probed into the CAN high and CAN low and ran the wires out here to our Pico so we can have a look to see what the data looks like on this module. Embarrassingly, I don't know what it's supposed to be. I assumed it was going to be like regular CAN, 1.5 to 2.5 volts on high and 2.5 to 1.5 on low, or something along those lines. But this one appears on CAN high. Currently it's running, so the blue trace is CAN high. It's running from 0 to 4 volts. Now CAN low doesn't look the same. That appears to be running from 5 volts to 1 volt. So they both have a delta of 4 volts. Typically on CAN, from what little I do know about it, is it usually creates a mirror image of itself. So let me change the speed here on our scope. And this is how these modules communicate. Sends these data packets of ones and zeros and has certain priority and identifiers and stuff like that, which I guess we won't get into too heavy because I'm not the best at explaining it. But what I am good at is seeing an anomaly. So CAN high appears to be working, but CAN low certainly is not a mirror image. But it is sometimes. Sometimes it appears to function, and we'll see certain data packets that appear to mirror image CAN high and CAN low, but there's also times when it doesn't, and they kind of come and correspond with when the module's dropping in and out. The other thing I observed, if we go back here, we'll pick a control unit like the instrument cluster per se. When we go in here, I noticed that live data was also coming and going. Let's see if we can, yeah. So it'll drop it, it'll say, not available, then the data pits come back, and it kind of goes through this cycle, I think, as it's looking for these data pits, or as they're being transmitted, and then they kind of come and go. And I was noticing that seemed to be a little worse when the car's running, but I did notice that the data stream seemed to be coming and going. So on a Chrysler, like if we go in there and shut the key off, these instantly all say NA, not available. So I'm assuming that it's looking for, or it's interpreting the transmission per se, and it's losing them, then it's getting them, then it's losing them and getting them. And that kind of corresponds with what we're seeing over here when we're looking at the actual data. Hope it all makes sense. So long story short, that's where I'm at with it. I got there, had to go to my dentist appointment, got back, it's after hours, but I kind of want to look into it to see if I can't figure out what's going wrong. This is what my gut tells me. My gut tells me that we probably have a module going wonky. If we had an open circuit, I don't think we would see what we're seeing. If we had a short to power, short to ground, I don't think we would see intermittent good data transmission. I think we perhaps have a module that's going wonky and all bets are off and it's doing what it's doing. Now I could be wrong. The best way to figure this out would be to start breaking the circuit down, but Chrysler unfortunately uses like this trunk style design where we have our front control module here, we have the data lines coming out, and then all the other modules are just teed into it, like a tree trunk. Like this is the trunk, and then these are the branches, and they just all come off from this. And the other thing that's kind of unfortunate about Chrysler is they don't really seem to have any connectors. Everything's held together with splices. You know, these wires literally come out and they go to splice packs, and they're just, you know, branch off to all these different modules. My thought is to use some logic. Where are these modules located? Can we get to them? Can we unplug them? And which one should we start with? I was shooting from the hip when I went to the heated seat module, because it's an 09, it's a New York vehicle, it sees salt. That module's mounted on the floor and it's under the seat. So I says, well, we got to tie into the network, so let's unplug that. We'll tap into it there, maybe we'll get lucky and it's all crusty. It's not. I unplugged it. You see what we have. I'm just probed into that connector. It's not that module. What I'd like to do is identify where these other modules are and what one's easy to get to. One I'm thinking of is this amplifier module. You know, let's see where that lives. Is it somewhere in the back of the vehicle? Is it on the floor? Is it likely to be, you know, living in a pool of water? Stuff like that. And if we can't get to them and they're not easy to get to, my next thing that I would like to try is to remove power from a module by simply pulling a fuse. That is a sometimes but not always case. It's nothing I've experienced personally, but I've seen videos on YouTube where they a person has had a module going corrupt. It's very difficult to get to, and I think the last one I saw, Bernie Thompson did one. It was on a airbag module. You know, got to tear the whole stinking car apart to get to it. He did. He tore it apart. It was corroded, you know, whatever, and, you know, unplugged it, restored data network. But he also demonstrated in that video the sometimes but not always situation where you remove the fuse, remove power from that module, and sometimes it'll clean up, you know, the CAN network. So we're going to try that. And if it doesn't work, you know, we still may have to get to these modules to unplug them. That's the best thing I can think of. That's the best place I can think to start. So let's get started. I looked on the component locator to see where things live. I looked up the amplifier module and it says left rear compartment. And then it showed a wiring harness kind of coming back here. So I think what we'll do is we'll move some of this stuff here. Standard. Not even a metric one. Stuff in there. We'll just see if I can shove some things back. Actually, we'll put this stuff on the floor. We'll do some. Okay, yeah, this thing lifts up here. And I don't know if this floor comes up, if it's under. Oh, well, that's interesting. This is all wet. This is soaked. So there's water dripping off of this. Well, I wonder. Well, that really got me wondering now. I don't know how the rest of this comes. I don't know if we take off this threshold, if we can see. Well, we can maybe at least have a look under here. I might have to look on a component locator again to see. I thought it looked like in that diagram that there may have been a well here and it was somewhere in this vicinity. I don't see much like the padding down here, so maybe it just got wet inside of there. Maybe that's just a bit of a red herring. Let's leave this off for right now. and perhaps we'll default back to seeing where the power comes from that amplifier and see if we can just yank the fuse for it before we put this together, in case we have to unbolt some of this to find out where I may be barking up the wrong tree here, but let's go try that. So I just did some looking. It is, the wire diagram led me astray. It's in the left rear quarter panel, not down under. So we're gonna go with our route of finding the power source for it. It's supposed to be fuse 1, inside fuse box, 30 amp. Oh, when the car was delivered, it was delivered like this, tore apart. So I did not do any of that. Let me set you down and find the fuse here. Well, there's only one 30 amp fuse here up in the corner. Let's see if we can reach it. Like I say, this is a sometimes but not always, but we're going to try it because it's the easiest thing to do. Alright, so there is our 30 amp fuse. Let's look at the CAN bus now. Alright, that's still screwy, and theoretically we should have lost communication with the amplifier. Let's just be sure, make sure we got the right fuse. Yep, okay, so we lost communication with that, so we did get the correct fuse anyways. I think next thing on the list, we've got the 2 door modules. They're difficult to get to. I looked at a power distribution diagram and it shows circuit breaker number 3, 20 amp. This is in the left side junction box, so same spot we were in, and it shows it running both door modules, so kind of 2 birds, 1 stone. Driver door module, passenger door module. So let's go yank that one out and see if there's a change. There's 2 circuit breakers that live in here. I don't know which one's which. So when all else fails, yank them both out. That's what the circuit breakers look like. So we'll take that one, and we'll take that one. They're right side by side in there. Let's go make sure the module's dead. No change in our data communication. Let's see here. Yeah, driver door module. Let's see. We shouldn't be able to communicate with it. Oh no, can we? Interesting, we can. Get it? We can. Let's just check passenger door module. I assume those were the right circuit breakers. I may actually have to look now. Yeah, it looks like we can still talk to them. Interesting, okay. You know, I just got thinking, I think the circuit breaker is a circuit. I don't think it's the only circuit. I think that's probably just supplies power to the window. Driver door module, here we go. Yep, it's a different fuse. Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense. I didn't think about that. They can't have it running. The circuit breaker is only for the power window circuit in that circuit. Fuse 12, 10 amp. Let me write this down. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna put those circuit breaker. Well, I guess we can leave them out. Number 12. I think these are labeled. Let me get my face down there. In good engineering fashion, they are labeled. F1 right through F25. However, the bracketry that holds this in covers up the labels. This is circuit breaker 3, for anybody who's curious. The guy had the spare fuse box here from the junkyard, so I just looked at this. So fuse 12, 3rd row down, 2nd one in. And it powers both door modules, passenger and a bunch of vanity lights. So we're gonna leave that out. I'll leave those circuit breakers out. Let's go see if there's any difference here, folks. I'm really hopeful, but I can tell no change there. And then we should have lost communication here. Yeah, we did, because it would have been talking by now. All right, let's make notes down here that we've removed fuse. Yeah, so no communication. And then fuse number 12, it was for both of them. And we pulled fuse. If I don't leave myself notes, I'll never remember. Sunroof is fuse number 2. We'll go pull that. That's a 15 amp. You know what, let me look, 30. I haven't put any of these back. I probably should keep track of everything here. That's a 15 amp for the sunroof. Let's go have a look. No change here. Let's make sure we lost it here. I'll have to go back to the sunroof module. Oh, it's gonna take it a minute because it's gonna have, oh no, it didn't. go in here, and this should be dead. Yep, okay, that one's dead. The overhead module should be out here. One of these, I'm gonna have to figure out which one it is. I'm gonna go double check. Both of these fuses, the 15 and 20 amp. One is for the electronic overhead module, and oddly enough, the other one is for the radio. They're not labeled on here, number. They're actually labeled as spare. So we yank them up. No change there. Yeah, and the electronic overhead module is dead. And the radio should also be dead if we try to talk to this. And that's also dead. Interesting. So, we pulled the fuse. I put the other fuses back in. I don't think it's gonna screw us out of anything. And then the overhead module, we pulled the fuse. I feel real silly if it's in the freaking cluster. That's the only thing we haven't killed yet was the cluster. And then the gateway, which I'm not sure how we'll go about that. Okay, but like I say, by pulling the fuses, it's not a tried and true method here. It's hopeful, but let's, I think we can probably just unplug that. I didn't bore you with it, but it made no change. Let's see, so I'll just make a note here, we unplugged. There's two plugs on it. I unplugged the one, we lost comm with it, and I think it had the comm wires on it from what I could see. Let me think here, folks. So this is our integrated power module, and then this is the front control module, and it bolts to it. So it has a connector here where this module separates and bolts to it. I looked at a diagram, and there's the connectors here in the actual front control module. And one of the connectors houses all of the CAN data bus. It goes in here, and then, you know, this acting as the gateway that goes to the data link connector. I observed when I picked it up that I was coming in here to try and pick these red tabs out, went to get my glasses, and I come back and I'm like, oh, well, these tabs are already out. So I don't know if somebody had been here before, but I'm just looking at the computer over there, everything looks normal there. Ew. Oh, well, look at the connector, you idiot. I was gonna say, I looked at the screen over there and it's fixed. But we got green. We got green, baby. It's always the last frickin' component, isn't it? Let's see, can you guys see that? Get it up here more towards the middle. Well, we got green, crusty, on a pin there. And obviously it's a pin that's doing something, because let's go look at our computer. And look at that. So evidently, the CAN high is supposed to be from 0 to 4 volts, or at least that's how it's functioning here, and CAN low is from 5 volts to 1 volt. But that's what it should look like, a mirror image of itself. I think they do it for redundancy. I could be wrong. But there's our data network. It appears to be restored. Whew. And you know what? That is our white and white with orange. Let me set you back down. White and white with orange is our data network wires. I thought they were going to be in this smaller connector. Perhaps they are. But on this one here, we'll have to get a diagram now. I've got a white with orange right next to a white, which is likely the network wires. It's the third pin in. The third pin in here is the one that has the case of the crusties. Is the pin rotted off? Oh. Ooh. It gets uglier. Yeah, the pin's completely rotted off. And there's pus coming out of the module. Fancy. Let me give you a little what's up. Let's see if we can enhance. So that pin is completely gone, and that's our canned low wire there, but we got crusties coming out of that. And we've got some crusties coming out of that one. Oh, that's interesting. So we're gonna need a front control module for certain. And we're going to need at least a pin and or this connector, because that pin is broke off in there. Yikes. This connector, however, I think is likely salvageable. You know, we'll clean it out with some deox. I bet, I see it's got a new Wilbert's You Pull It a Bath, not a sponsor battery. I wonder if this is like from, you know, off gassing of the battery that, you know, the thing's kind of in a cruddy spot where it sits down there. I'm just glad we came back and found it. I was gonna go home after my dentist appointment because it was at 4:30. And I said, you can't go home, Eric, you'll never be able to sleep. And I'd be down here at 4 o'clock in the morning, or sometime, when I gave this some thought. I wanted to come down and try some stuff. We're gonna have to see how this connector comes apart. I'm gonna definitely have to get out my spectacles for that. Looks like the back half snaps off it that holds the wires here. Yes, sir. That it does. Yep, so that slides off. Boy, a lot of wires here, young fella. So that's gonna slide down them wires, keeping them all separate. Gonna have to kind of straighten some of this out. We'll work that side of the connector down. The inside here has to be able to pop apart, and then hopefully we can de-pin it, because it would be silly to try to replace the entire connector. Awful lot of wires here. Get that tape opened up there. Well, that was fun. Saved us a lot of ripping and tearing. I don't think there's any way to really depower the front control module. Perhaps there is. Perhaps I can look on a wiring diagram and see if that is plausible. We can try that method. I've kind of kept that method in my back pocket since seeing Bernie do it there. That guy's super sharp. If you really want to feel like an idiot, go watch some of his videos. Bernie Thompson. Brilliant, brilliant man. Okay. Well, let me fiddle with this, see how this comes apart, see if we can't de-pin it. And then we're gonna have to wait till tomorrow to see about getting parts. I'm gonna have to do some research. I don't know if we can put a used module in. I'll check price and availability on a new one, of course. As far as the pin goes, might be taking a trip to Wilbert's You Pull It a Bath. But let's see. I guess we'll wait till tomorrow. Let me work on this. Maybe I'll see if I can get that apart for you. Get a hold of the wire here. Okay, the pin is wiggly. There it is, old son. There is our broken pin. Well, it's funny because that the female half here, if you can use that word in 2024, appears to be in pretty good shape. Seeing if there's any way to come in from the back side and push that pin out. Ah, it reminds you of your mom getting a sliver out of your finger when you're the kid. Go get me the sewing kit, sweetie. That's not what my mom sounded like. Let me see if I can get a hold of that sucker. Or Vanessa, for that matter. Vanessa likes to get slivers out of my fingers, but I think she gets too much enjoyment from it, to be honest with you. The needle goes a lot deeper than I think it has to typically. Oh, I pushed it down in. Oh, got a spider. Got him. Just seeing if tapping it will get it to perhaps flick back out of there. Negative. Let me fiddle around here, folks. Let me show you. Hopefully I don't drop it. I already dropped it once. I had to go find it. So there it is. I don't know if that's gonna be able to see that, but that is the male half of that pin right there. I was able to get it out. A little bit of fiddling, I got it out, and then I dropped it down by the battery, but I was able to see it and decipher between that and a speck of dust. And I think, you know, looking at this terminal here, I'll enhance. Hopefully you guys can see it there. Of course you can't, you're looking at my corroded thumb. I've got the corresponding male half here out of the AES wave kit. Oh yeah, we still got pin tension, baby. Yeah, that terminal's still good. It's still good. Stick it in the empty hole here. We'll use it to clean off some of this corrosion. We'll clean out this whole connector, but I think we're in good shape. Yeah, the connector feels great. Let's slide it back up in the cavity in which it belongs, number 3. Make sure it still locks in, and it does. We'll clean off that dab of corrosion there with some deoxit. I'll put the connector back together here. Okay, snap that back together because we don't want it falling apart. We'll run this back up. Well, this will be good. At least now we just need to get a front control module. And we caught it before it became a big, huge mess. So that's a plus. Okay, so that's all snapped back together. Let me get some deoxit and spray that on there. We'll kind of get them cleaned up. Of course, once we put it back together, well, let's see. If we click that back on there, I'm curious if it's getting interference from something else. Yep, so as soon as I plug that back in, the data network over there goes stupid. Oh, you guys can't see anything. So it's more than what meets the eye. There must be corrosion up inside the module making it do funny business. All right, let's clean these babies up. This is the stuff I like to use. Deoxit D5, D series. Seems to work pretty good. Melts away corrosion. They have some other cleaners that are specific for like gold connectors and stuff of that nature. This stuff seems to work pretty good. Removes oxidation, improves connection, seals, protects surfaces. Not a sponsor, I buy it myself. So at this point, folks, I just set the front control module and integrated power module back on there. I'm gonna see about potentially getting a new one. And if we can't get a new one, we're gonna have to try to find a used one with the same configuration. I don't know, I know if this was a Tip'em, we'd be able to do a configuration restore using the YTech, and we could, just flash it to what the vehicle is built by then. I'm gonna have to do some research. If we can't get a new one, if we can get a used one, and are we able to put it in, and can we change any of the configuration settings in there if we have to. So I'm gonna do my research on that. I've gone ahead and unplugged the Pico from the heated seat module and got this so we can start it and drive it outside while we're waiting for parts. I've gone ahead and cleared all the codes out that we created. These are the codes that are left. Looks like everything's talking, but everything's going to be unhappy. So gateway has, our CAN B bus, our CAN bus low circuit low. Indeed it is, because it's completely unplugged or removed, because that pin's bad. The amplifier has a CAN B code stored in it, CAN B minus circuit. ECU in single wire mode, so that's kind of an interesting code. I did look into that on the heated seat module, just because I wanted to see how it defined it, and it's just kind of a strategy it has, so that's kind of neat. So yeah, we just have the CAN B bus faults, and of course, we had the codes in the ECM, which those are going to come back as soon as the guy drives it, but I guess that's a different problem for a different day. So that's that, folks. We're going to leave this one potentially as a part 1. I don't know how quickly I'll be able to obtain what we need to actually repair this properly, but hopefully this video in and of itself is useful to somebody as far as tracking down the problem. Now, I did look on a wiring diagram to see if there was a fuse or fuses that run that front control module, and there's a host of fuses. So we can't really, unfortunately, with that style module, we can't try the old pull the fuse trick and see if it takes care of it. I would be curious if it does, but with the corrosion in the connector, or up in the male half of that connector in the front control module, I suspect pulling the fuse out of it probably wouldn't fix our issue. It's hard to say. It's all speculation until we get an example that we can actually show you and learn on. Fortunately for us, our problem was right here. It was easy to get to and not too terrible to figure out. My process for figuring it out was simply, as you guys saw, it's doing some logic, seeing how the system's built, seeing what it's seeing, and then coming up with a plan. If that module there looked good, like for example, if we got there and it was clean and unplugging it did nothing, at that point I'm going to have to actually physically track down the physical modules and start breaking down the system by unplugging them. And that would have been my next step, but we didn't have to get there. So you guys want to get there in that comment section. Questions, comments, the Insta, the Facebook. Be on the lookout for part 2 of this video at some point in time. May not come out right after this one, but if I fix it, be sure. You rest assured that I'll post it on the Facebook, on the YouTube. You guys know. And just from our viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.